Great, welcome everybody, and it's a real delight to have Martin Jones with us today, who is in the UK in Aylesbury. For those of you who don't know Martin's work, I've been following him for quite a number of years. In fact, we studied craniosacral therapy around the same time, which was nearly 30 years ago now. Martin's got a very interesting story to tell, and I'm sure he'll tell some of that story this evening, but it was around how he came across this holographic breathing through really, as a result, I think, Martin, was of you catching Lyme disease, wasn't it? And really healing yourself through this whole process in a very powerful way. So it's a very dynamic thing he's going to share with us tonight, and particularly focusing on the area of obviously working with pregnancy and childbirth as well. So I'm really fascinated. Martin and I did a session last week together, so I'm a little bit now a bit more familiar with his work, so and the power of it. So really excited about this. So Martin, going back to your story then and how you discovered it, could you just tell people what happened to you? Because I know you got quite ill at one point, and I'm assuming you tried various kind of therapies, and then how did you because it sounds like you spontaneously came across this.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a long history in healing. I did start in the 70s in Osho's ashram in India. And then from that I started a Tai Chi school and then later a cranial school as part of that. But I was very healthy, I was very fit, I was teaching 40 hours of Tai Chi and doing my own practice and doing healing and things. So I had life was great. And I went to India to see my healing teacher, and it was kind of at the time, it's my second cranial training. It was halfway through that. It was in '96. I did two practitioner trainings. I was doing the second one. And I got ill in India, and I came back and I got better from it. But after that, my health just plummeted, and I didn't realize that I'd been bitten by a tick. I didn't know what Lyme disease was, and I had Lyme disease. And kind of 6 or 7 years later, I was pretty well bedridden. I had to stop teaching Tai Chi because my joints were so painful. I was tired is not the word for it. It feels like you're dying. Lyme disease just feels like you're dying. And it first came as a spiritual energy. I just lay on my bed. I didn't know what it was. I knew I couldn't beat it. And I just asked it to take me, but not kill me. And I just breathing, and it felt like, first of all, it was pain, and then it was like the waves of death. I just went through wave. It felt like dying after wave, until I came out the other side. And there were beings there, just really big, very still. They didn't really seem to say anything, very just wise beings. And I kind of came back and didn't think much of it. But after that, my Kundalini rose. I had a rushing Kundalini thing for a couple of months. And I was just meditating towards the end of that. I'd been breathing into the maxilla because I'd been told that I had needed orthodontics. So I was trying to do my own orthodontics and open this whole area and breathe with the maxilla. And I've been doing that for about a week, and it'd been going through the brain. And it was starting to hurt, and I just did it softer and softer until it was barely there. And there was this, it just came in a flash. There was this blinding light, and it was almost physical. This energy drove from my brain, through my face. The teeth felt like they were coming out of their sockets, and it all drove down into the jaw. And it awakened a memory. And as that happened, my lips got pulled together, the tongue got pulled to the roof of the mouth, so the lips were closed. And as I was breathing in, the jaw gently opened with the lips closed. And as I breathed out, it gently closed. So I didn't learn or make up or try and do holographic breathing, just this sheer download of energy into that area awoke something. And there was this gentle breathing motion of my jaw. And what I'd been trying to do with the maxilla, just this motion, I could feel it was automatically breathing the maxilla, and it moved through the whole face. The whole face was just gently breathing through the brain, through the cranium, and through the whole of my body. It's just this wave-like motion joined with this subtle motion of the jaw, just spread through everything and connected to the higher self and connected to the earth. And it was at that stage, it was about a week before that, that I found out that I had Lyme disease. And with this breathing, I could really feel the cranial sea in my brain. I could feel the energies, and I could feel it all detoxing. This higher breath was really good for cleansing the brain and activating the brain. And I felt like, you know, I was about to die from the Lyme disease, you know, I think, because I was just going from pneumonia to bronchitis to pneumonia to and I felt like I've been given this straw to try and pull myself out of this sickness swamp. With the holographic breathing, I could work with the brain, I could work with the cranial sea, I could feel these toxins literally releasing from my brain and spreading out and leaving through the nervous system and into the lymph and away. And I started feeling better. And after a while, I was able to do healing. And I never taught Tai Chi again. I felt like I'd found my inner Tai Chi. It felt like it was happening inside. I never did cranial work again. When I put my hands on people, it felt, it wasn't cranial work anymore, it was the spiritual energies behind holographic breathing were coming through and working, and it never stopped for me. This thing, it was like I'd done it in a past life. That breathing motion just became my normal breathing. So it was just there, unless I was talking or eating, it was just there gently going in the background. And I would wake up in the night and there were these, I don't know what you call them, higher energies, higher beings, and they were teaching me about the inner dynamics of it. So there was this whole spiritual side, and I just couldn't believe, you know, when it first started, I thought, what is that? And I did some magazine articles because I thought someone else must be doing this. But I put out so many articles and different things, and it does seem, it is very counterintuitive, the motion. I'm not going to describe why, but it is counterintuitive, and it is the way when I teach it to people, it is an activation. It's like you start off as an exercise and then suddenly it just starts going, every cell joins in, every muscle joins in, and it opens all of these different healing dynamics and healing modalities through the body. And I called it holographic because I could see the mouth, jaw was like the abdomen, pelvis, the hara. The maxilla was like the lungs, they're like maxillary sinuses, like two lungs, and the nasal passageways looked like a heart. That was the chest and the emotional body. The eyes connect directly into the brain, and the higher energies, so I see hara, heart, intellect in the face, and then I could see it mirrored through the cranium and the brain, through the organs, through all of the different parts of the body. I could feel it mirroring in the heavens and mirroring in the earth. And that is how it got its name. holographic breathing, because it was fractals or holographic reflections through everything. And my life changed. All the people I knew kind of disappeared away. The clients I had disappeared. I got new clients. I just taught holographic breathing. Whenever I tried to work with somebody or had been, always end up in disaster. And I just stayed with the holographic breathing. That became my teacher, and these higher energies behind it were the teacher. And I felt like I didn't need sessions anymore, because I felt like I could heal myself, and I just slowly cleared the Lyme disease. And it was quite a big job, neurological Lyme disease, because it really affects the myelinating glial cells, the neurons, the astrocyte cells, the whole nervous system. It takes longer to heal. It's a bit like MS or Parkinson's disease. You can clear the Lyme, but still it takes a while. So it taken a long time to get better. But that is now, like, came through in about 2002. I think I would have died. And I think I chose to stay but have a new life. Keep this body and start a new life, because that is what it felt like. It felt like I just moved into a new life. So that is how it came through.
And I think because you sent me some beautiful paintings that you did as well, and the way you describe it when we were talking was also like you feel these kind of like wave-like movements, or like wave-like, and it was kind of almost embryonic. Could you talk about that?
Well, those pictures were because I had these images. For this, it may be interesting for the cranial people. I had the images of the cranial fluid being separate to the brain. It's a shame I didn't know this. I would have got the pictures out. And so you've got this cranial fluid around the brain, you've got the cranial fluid in the ventricles, and then around the spinal cord. And when I was doing holographic breathing, if I imagined it in that way, it was like it was killing me. If I imagined it was like how the anatomy books describe it, it was killing me. And the experience I had with holographic breathing was that the cranial fluid was through the whole brain and around the brain and in the ventricles and between every cell, and also travels out through the nerves. That is why I call it the cranial sea. It's a combination of the interstitial fluid, if that's the right name, and the cranial fluid. It's all. And the cranial fluid, it's only about 150 millimeters in the books, but if you include all the fluid in the brain and everything, you're getting like a lot of fluid. The brain is 90% water. And I started researching it. They're the same. The cranial fluid, 99% water, 1% salt, oxygen and glucose. The interstitial fluid inside the brain is 99% water, 1% salt, glucose and oxygen. They are the same fluid, and they act like water, and they just flow down. Ridiculous that they should flow up and go out through the venous sinus. The venous sinus is for the blood, it's for the venous blood, and it's the right size for the venous blood, for this huge amount of cranial sea that's going to leave. It's going to have to flow out through the nerves, and it's going to have to flow out through the dura. And that's how I describe it, and that's my experience of it. This is for another really interview where we can go into that in depth, where I can show the diagrams and how it relates. But I experienced it in a new way, and because I started teaching it and the anatomy was new, I just painted all of these pictures to describe it.
No, I'm sure you're correct with that. That's how I experience it as well. So coming to pregnancy then, how, I know we're going to do some practical shortly, but can you just describe how this approach might be useful for someone who's pregnant?
Well, this came around accidentally. Right in the early stages of it, I taught it to this girl over the phone, and she broke her leg. Not because I taught it to her, it was a different time. And she was in hospital with this broken leg, and she was speaking to me about it afterwards, and she said the painkillers did nothing. She said the only thing that helped, and she said it was brilliant, was the holographic breathing. So I knew that it worked well with pain. And then from my students learning holographic breathing, some of them wanted to have babies, so I taught it to them for fertility, and they did go off and did have babies. And others were already pregnant and asked if they could use it through their birth. So I taught ways to them and different things to them that they could use it through their birth. And of the women who learned that from me, every single one had a natural home birth. Every single one had no intervention. Some literally had no pain at all. Some said cleared about 70% of the pain, or just became kind of an ecstatic type, or they experienced the pain as energy. For me, this breathing motion that happens in holographic breathing is the same breathing motion that the baby is doing in the womb. That's how I experience it. I'm running a course through August and September where I'm showing that, where we're going into the movement in depth and how it relates to our inner baby, really. And I went to this lady's kind of birth guru in London, and I was teaching circles there. So you have a circle of about 20 women who are pregnant. And they all said a similar thing. We would start with the holographic breathing and say, oh, my baby can feel this. There's, they'd say, first of all, the baby gets quite excited and starts moving around. And then after a few minutes, they say the babies just relax and drop into the womb. And so that the babies somehow register it. And in holographic breathing, it's not the same as our normal breath. Normally in our normal breath, everything's experienced as everything opening and everything closing. But in holographic breathing, you can do it in different ways, as everything is the same as cranial sacral therapy. I think this is how Sutherland explains it, is that there's an expansion to the sides on the in-breath, but vertically you're shortening. And then on the out-breath, there's a narrowing and everything's lengthening. So the lungs can open in all directions because there's a airflow to the lungs, but every other part of the body and every other section of the body is going to stay the same volume. So for the brain and cranium to expand, for it to open laterally, it has to condense top to bottom. And then for it to come in medially, has to lengthen top to bottom. And I think this is what the baby is using, this breathing, because continually tightening the muscles, relaxing the muscles, tightening, and this is pulling the baby in longitudinal and lengthening, and it's putting this stress. You need a stress on the bones for the bones to form. And I think this whole breathing motion, I experience it as tied into the kind of embryology, and trying to think of the right word, the original matrix. It ties into the original matrix and that whole area. And then through birth, it's the same. I got a balloon especially for this. I just flew it up. I thought 5 minutes before, that's why I was a little bit late to see you. I was blowing up a balloon and doing different things. So the lungs can expand in all directions, but the abdomen, for the abdomen to expand, you feel like we're pushing out the abdomen, but actually it's a longitudinal motion. The diaphragm is pulling down. For me, the pelvic diaphragm is explained wrong. It doesn't drop on the in-breath, it holds. Breathing in, the abdomen expands. Breathing out, the abdomen contracts. And the expansion is due to the longitudinal pressure of the muscles pulling the pelvic diaphragm and diaphragm under the ribs together, breathing in, breathing out. And then within the diaphragm, with the pregnant mother, and every time the mother is breathing, you've got the uterus and the muscles are top to bottom of the uterus. The contractions, a lot of people think of them as an out-breath, but the contractions are an in-breath. This is now a uterus breathing in. The baby is going to stay the same volume. So for the uterus to pressure top to bottom, there's going to be this expansion to the sides, and the baby may be upside down, but it's still longitudinal. And it tucks its head in so the spine is straight, so the pelvis is aligned through the spine to the cranium, so that, and it is imparting that shortening and widening and the contraction and lengthening and narrowing between the contractions. So contraction, it's the same as the breathing. Between the contractions, resting. Contraction is like in-breath, shortening and widening. Contraction, lengthening and narrowing. So that whole movement and that whole breath continues through the birth. And mothers who do holographic breathing, everything is moving. And there's this well-known comment from midwives that if mothers go into birth and they tighten their jaw with the pain or to push, and tightening the jaw, this is causing tight locks in the body. You know, you press, tighten, and this is causing that. So you're doing the complete opposite of what needs to happen. You're pressing into a tightening through the body. And they say if the jaw is relaxed, then the pelvis can be relaxed. Holographic breathing goes one stage further. The jaw is continually breathing motion. So it's moving. It's not just relaxing, it's actually moving with the breath and part of the breath. And that you become a flow rather than a fixture. Everything becomes a flow. And you can literally breathe in the same way as you breathe through the face and the cranium. With holographic breathing, we'll do it in the meditation. You can easily feel the pelvis opening and closing. So the mothers who use holographic breathing through their birth, they literally can breathe the baby out, because every contraction they're breathing with that as part of the breath. So there is a big squeeze and widening, but at the same time there's lots of little ones from the breath. And I teach many different webinars to go with that, where one is just happened to me naturally. I was breathing with my pelvis because I feel this, and then suddenly I was inside my pelvis and I was upside down, and I was me as the mother and me as the baby. And our bodies were moving in the same way. And I didn't go out to do it, but I had this whole experience of giving birth to myself. So it's breaking the karma of mother to daughter, mother to daughter, mother to daughter, mother to son or daughter, because it's all held within you. It's complete. You are the mother, you are the baby. And then when I came out, I brought myself to my own breast. Women can feel their inner man and energetic male genitalia. Men can feel their inner woman and female genitalia. So doesn't mean you're gay. We just all have that ability, and we all have that ability. Rather than having to remember something, we can go into these states ourselves. And the movement of the mouth is just the same as a very subtle form of suckling. So the breath is in the womb. It's every time the mother's diaphragm, as the baby gets bigger and feeling the pressure from the diaphragm, it's causing this breathing motion in the baby. And then as it gets bigger, the diaphragm really is pushing on the baby. So the mother, it's not just intrinsic in the baby, the mother's breath is doing it on the baby, the contractions and gaps, the same breath, the baby comes out, goes on the breast, it's doing holographic breathing on the breast, because it's the same thing. So it intimately and exactly connects into that whole thing. And when it first came through and I was doing this gentle suckling, I could feel I was sating all of the different karma around suckling as a baby. What I hadn't got as a baby, it's kind of doing it now, and I could feel it structuring my whole body. And there's lots and lots, you know, we do that slowly, and I found 7 different energy activations as you go through work. But one is definitely as you come to, as the I'm dyslexic, I can't remember names, the cervix. Once the cervix is totally, it's completely around here, and it's some women just want to, it's got to keep going, but in the breathing we can get halfway through the cervix, and this is a natural place to rest. You just hang out there and you can feel it activating the third eye, you can feel it activating the eyes, you can feel it, this whole change, the whole nervous system wakes up. And you changed in the holographic breathing, all of these energies open up. The uterus and ovaries are in the fire circuit, the vagina is in the blue energy circuit, which is the adrenals, and you swap from one type of energy into the adrenal circuit, which is suddenly you get much more adrenaline as the mother, and it's where the birth becomes much more active. And there's 7 different activations, and rather being in a state where you might die or something can go wrong, each time you can sit into these different activations and get what you might not have got when you were first being born, and it's inside of you, so you're not dependent on your mother, or if you're a mother and have babies, you're not. It's all inclusive and bringing these polar opposites together. It's like yin yangs, different energy come together. These amazing energies lift out of you as the whole universe comes together, like the mother and baby coming together and play, and it totally heals the pelvis, totally heals the cranium. So lots of different kind of webinar series that I do on that.
Information there. So do you want to lead us into a practical around this, Martin? Is that?
Yeah, let's do that. I'll teach you the holographic breathing, and then I wouldn't mind a little break after if we can, and then people can ask questions. I'm kind of hoping, I had quite a few women at the beginning, and I am hoping that is, and then I kind of put it on the side burner because I was just teaching it as healing. I think this can fundamentally change mankind if doulas and midwives take on holographic, because so many women have just learned holographic breathing. They haven't learned all of those different things, but it's so helped their birth. You know, I taught people, 20 years ago, and then suddenly I get this phone call, oh, I gave birth and I used holographic breathing and it was wonderful. So I'm kind of hoping that at some stage the word will get out and mothers can have a pain-free and ecstatic birth in a fairly easy way. And I think that changes mankind. It certainly changes the mother, because it is a spiritual and healing process. So she is using that through her pregnancy and then the birth. And one over and over and over with the mothers, they say, my baby doesn't cry. She's just content. You get really content babies. So the babies enjoy it as well. The mothers, you don't have to get all of these tears and different things. It's just breathed out in your, it's not like expanding, 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 growing, and it's like expanding, contracting. It's okay to squeeze the baby on the contraction. You're teaching it to breathe. Breathing in, it expands, the baby's getting space. Breathing out, so rather than it opening, it's like closing, opening, closing, opening, and it all starts giving. It becomes a movement rather than a thing. So I'm just hoping that it can find its own way, and people want to come to me to become practitioners or learn these different things. But we will go through the basic format of it now, and I'm not just going to teach the jaw. I'm also going to teach something with the feet, and I've got a foot from a previous client. They didn't quite make it. I asked for his foot. We will also be working with the hands and feet, and it's easier to describe it with this and just doing. And we'll just start flapping them, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. But then that's the muscles tightening and relaxing through the front of the leg. But then you have to balance it with the back and the muscles from the heel going up the back of the legs, and then it's like the diaphragm. So instead of it flapping, it's cupped, breathing in, it all splays out, breathing out, it cups like the diaphragm, breathing in, breathing out. And the same with the hand, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And that connects with diaphragms, that connects the movement of the joint, gives it this much more physical. This is what babies do. You see kittens doing this with their hands and feet. You see babies. They've done holographic breathing for 9 months in the womb. And then they're doing that. And for some reason, they forget it. Breathe normally. But now we're activating it back to life. All right, yes. So I'll describe it first. I'll do a short demonstration, then we'll just go into it. Holographic breathing, the lips are relaxed and closed. The upper surface of the tongue is relaxed and on the roof of the mouth. The tip of the tongue is touching or close to the front teeth. The upper surface of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. As much as feels comfortable. Don't force it all up there. If it's only ½ an inch, that's okay. If it's an inch, that's okay. Must be comfortable. So they're relaxed. And then there's the movement of the jaw, but this all stays closed. And the movement of the jaw, it's small. It's 2 or 3 millimeters opening, 2 or 3 millimeters closing. But it is moving. It is a physical motion. And then after a while, it just connects to the movement of the breath. I'll demonstrate it so you can see that it's not an exercise. It is very meditative, very relaxing. And as soon as I do it, it goes through my brain, it connects to the higher energies, connects to the earth. So and you may not even see the motion of the jaw, but you will notice that the lips don't open and close. So I'll just do 2 or 3 breaths. and the effect is instant. You may notice I'm probably speaking more slowly. The effect is instant, just synchronizes through the whole body, especially through the brain. The energies open through the brain, everything starts, and the whole, you just drop into this very meditative place. All right, there's a specific way I take you into it because it is counterintuitive. We will start with it just working from the mouth, because it is not counterintuitive if you're just focusing on the jaw. Then we'll bring, once it's going, then we'll bring the energy more to the breath and the nose, and at that point it becomes very meditative and everything starts activating. So most people are new to this. My voice knocks people out. Holographic breathing will knock you out. If it's the first time you've learnt it, it's important to be sitting up for the learning of it. Once it's going, you can lie down, but because you need to stay awake to get to the point where it activates. So if you fall asleep before that point and then don't learn it, no point in doing, well, not no point, but little point in doing the webinar. All right, let's start. So it's good to be seated at least for the first part until it's activated, closing your eyes. And we're going to bring in some resources, sending a smile, sending some energy to the earth, and letting the earth say hello back. And notice what that feels like through your energies and through your body. And sending a smile, sending some energy to the higher self and the beneficial energies. The beneficial energies are any higher energies, spiritual teachers, spiritual energies, as long as it's beneficial, anything else beneficial that you're sourcing. So sending a smile, sending some energy to the higher self and beneficial energies, and allow the higher self and the beneficial energies to say hello back. That's quite strong. I can feel that through the whole group, those energies coming in. And notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. That really resonated with people, just being aware of that, the energy from the earth, the energy from the higher self and the beneficial energies. And ask the earth, or notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies, and ask the earth, the higher self and the beneficial energies to be with you through the whole webinar as your resource and your healing energies. Okay, we're going to start. The lips are relaxed and closed. The tongue is relaxed on the roof of the mouth. The tip of the tongue is close to or touching the front teeth, and it's as much as the tongue on the roof mouth as feels comfortable. The important bit is that it feels comfortable. And gently breathing through the nose. And now we're not going to do it with the breath to start off with, but just to get the experience that you can move the jaw and keep the lips closed, just bouncing or moving the jaw up and down. So a bit like chewing, jaw opening and closing with the lips closed. with the tongue on the roof of the mouth, just to get the experience that you can move the jaw and have the lips closed. And then slow that down so it's just a gentle, slow motion, the jaw opening and closing with the lips closed and the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Slow that right down, and when you feel ready, as the jaw is opening, let the breath draw in through your nose. And as the jaw closes, allowing the breath to leave through your nose. The jaw gently opening. Notice it feels like a bellows. It feels like it's drawing the breath in through your nose. And as the jaw closes, it feels like it's expelling the breath through your nose. Relax the back of your neck. Relax the back of your head. The jaw opens, draws the breath in. The jaw closes, expels the breath through the nose. The lips stay closed all of the time. The tongue stays on the roof of the mouth all of the time. If it feels awkward in any way, slow it down, make it more gentle. It's a small motion of the jaw, half a finger width. So the jaw doesn't become fixed. As it's opening, the teeth are separating. As it's closing, the teeth just float together and just rest. They barely meet. They just gently rest together. Or it can stop before they actually touch, but you don't clench the jaw in any way. Breathing in, the teeth gently opening, breathing out, they're coming back together, barely touching. So the jaw is free. Relaxing the whole body, you might start getting a deeper breath. The jaw is synchronizing with the muscles of the breath. Okay, we're going to change the gestalt. We're going to bring the attention to the breath and then the jaw. Being aware, breathing in through the nose, and as you breathe in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out through the nose, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice how everything becomes much more relaxed. You move into a more energetic and meditative place. Notice how the energies starts traveling through your brain. This whole area, the nose, sinuses, nasal passageways, this relates a lot to the cranial sea. You may notice this moving into your brain. You're doing it with the jaw, relates to the bones of the cranium. You do it with the nasal passageways, and maxilla relates to the cranial sea. You do it with the eyes, it relates to the cells of the brain. Breathing in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, the jaw relaxes closed. It's important to have a relaxed neck. You may want to drop your chin a bit. A lot of energy will start moving through the neck and through the brain, and a movement as well. Notice you start getting this breathing motion starting to spread through you. We're now going to align that with the body, with the chest, with the muscles. As the chest opens, the jaw gently opens. As the chest closes, the jaw gently closes. They're working together. Starts from the jaw, moves to the body, and then it just becomes a whole breath, and the jaw becomes part of the whole breath. The abdomen opening on the in-breath, the jaw opens with it. The abdomen closing on the out-breath, the jaw closes with it. Feeling the whole torso opening as you're breathing in, the jaw relaxes open with the whole torso. Breathing out, the whole torso relaxes closed, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice you can feel down this movement of the jaw, or this new breath gives you the ability to feel your anatomy and the ability to feel your energies and your ability to travel in your body. And you can feel right down into the pelvis, right down into the pelvic floor, right down into the genitalia. They're all breathing. Every cell breathes. Every organ breathing. You can drop down into the pelvis. Pelvis opening out to the sides as you breathe in. Pelvis closing immediately. Notice how you get a really good access to your pelvis. The jaw is doing the same. It's not just opening up and down. The jaw, the face, the cranium, they're opening to the sides on the in-breath, closing immediately on the out-breath. Pelvis doing the same, opening out to the sides as you breathe in, closing as you breathe out. Notice you can feel through the pelvic floor. You can feel the rectum. You can feel the genitalia. You can feel the openings through the pelvic floor. Breathing. Opening out to the sides, breathing out, closing. And that connects your legs. Notice you feel the energies moving down through your arms and legs. You feel this subtle movement moving through your arms, legs, hands and feet. They're opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. You get access to every cell, opening as you breathe in, closing as you breathe out. Notice in a very subtle way how your whole face has started to breathe, your whole cranium is breathing, your brain has started to breathe, your neck has started to breathe. This doesn't breathe like this with your normal breathing. You can now breathe just without trying. It's just part of it. Your brain starts to breathe. You can feel the cranial sea through your whole brain, breathing, detoxifying, flowing out through the nerves, through the dura, detoxifying. Notice how holographic breathing links into breastfeeding, how this movement of the mouth is like a very subtle form of suckling. And suckling reorganizes the whole body for the baby. Holographic breathing will start reorganizing and balancing through the structures of your body. It will start working in many wondrous ways on an energetic and spiritual level. Will start healing your organs. So it relates to breastfeeding, not just being breastfed as a baby, but breastfeeding. Notice it's the mother and the baby. You have the experience of breastfeeding and being breastfed. It's one energy, it's not separated, and it's for both men and women. We're going to go into it in a very simple way. how much you will experience it, I'm not sure. We normally do it in a longer way, but we'll start noticing what it's like. We'll go, it's not a memory of in your mother, it's intrinsic gestation. It's intrinsic, you as the mother holding the baby and you as the baby in yourself. But it's not confined, it's a very open feeling, being aware of your genitalia. For the women, being aware of your uterus and ovaries, vagina. Men, being aware of your genitalia, but the prostate relates to the uterus, the testes relate to the ovaries. You can have the experience, men can also have the experience of having a womb, energetic womb, energetic vagina. And being aware of that, it's like you become pregnant, you are the mum. And you also have the experience of being the baby. And notice this breathing is connecting you to that experience of being in the womb. And it's not your mother's womb, it's like the womb of creation. So connected to the divine matrix. You're growing around the divine matrix. And notice this breathing. It's joining you to that. We didn't open it, but you can just feel your hands and feet gently opening and closing. I didn't take you into that fully, but you know how babies do it, the hands and feet flattening and opening, the hands and feet cupping and relaxing. It's very much what babies do. You may start feeling that reflex and that you're being fed. You've got an umbilical cord and you're being fed by the universe. And it's within you and of the universe and of the spiritual matrix or original matrix, the energetic form you're growing from and around. Feel all parts of you relaxing, all parts of you growing, and the stem cells will be growing in you. As you go back to this experience, you start producing stem cells, you start healing, you start clearing things that may have gone wrong through this time, or you didn't have the right nutrition, or your parents were arguing, whatever it may be within yourself. It's just this wondrous, safe, beneficial, healing, nurturing experience. You in your own womb, universal, spiritual healing, and that you're being nurtured. Everything opening on the in-breath, everything closing. You may feel gentle motion of your hands and feet. Notice how the jaw just become automatic. It's just kind of going by itself. It's been activated. Everything growing, everything forming. Good to feel a lot going on in people's necks. Just let your chin drop a little bit. Let that movement go through your neck. Let the energy go through your neck. Let everything breathe. We're slowly gonna come out of that womb experience. We're not going to go through birth because that's quite a long meditation. We're just going to slowly be more in ourselves as we are now. And that we are that baby all the time. That baby is within us all the time. That womb experience is in us all of the time. That connection to the spiritual matrix and original matrix and earth is within us all of the time. We are reforming all of the time. And this movement of the mouth, which was once fixed and becomes a movement, You move from a position to becoming a movement. And feel that in yourself, everything breathing, everything moving. It's good to feel your hands and feet, let everything ground. Sit back in your body, sit back in the jaw, sit back in the head, sit back in the pelvis. Feel the sit bones. Feel your heels, it's much deeper, stronger. This is a deep earth circuit, back and bottom of everything. Back and bottom of every part takes you into this deep earth energy, gently being with that. We work with the genitalia all of the time in holographic breathing because it's that whole area is producing the kundalini that rises up, connect with the spiritual energies, but also all the different areas of the genitalia, the rectum, the pelvic floor, the pelvis, relate to different energy circuits we work with, and they produce this rising potency that rises through the body and connects with the higher self and beneficial energies. And the higher self and beneficial energies come down to meet that. Also be aware of your lower back, something happening in the lower back, allowing that to breathe. Definitely allow it into the chest and lungs. Okay, we'll be coming back in about a minute. Gently being with that. And sending a thank you to the earth. Sending a thank you to the higher self and beneficial energies. Thanking yourself. Letting the energies go out to the earth for love and healing. Letting the energies go off to the higher self and beneficial energies for love and healing. Allowing yourself to be loved and healed. Letting the energies go out to all sentient beings for love and healing. And you are a sentient being, allowing yourself to be loved and healed. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourself to come back. So I'll leave it up to John to move on from here.
Thank you, Matthew. Sorry, Martin. Thank you so much. It really took me somewhere else. Yeah, it was wonderful. A couple of questions, and please do put any questions in the chat. Anybody's got, and we'll take those. At some point, it felt, and I could feel this also in my hands and my feet, that it was the breathing was tuning into something. It was almost like feeling something that was already there that I hadn't noticed before, that is always there, and that felt, oh, I'm just tuning into something which is always there, rather than having to do something, which is it was interesting. I want to explore that myself. It was fascinating.
That has been the main thing. I'm really pleased you mentioned that, because there's a huge body of work in holographic breathing. That we work with 6 different energy systems and qualities of energy, and they work through the body in a whole multitude of different ways. But years and years I've been teaching, and we haven't actually repeated anything. But it's not like inserting something on the body. I feel it erupting out of me as a memory or a deep resonance of something that's always been there, awakening. And then I try and find different ways of being able to teach that to people. So that has been so the whole way through. It's not like you join other systems to it or other energies to it. It's always been what's evolved out of me. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then it's like, my God, how do I teach that to other people? And people who've come for a long time, they talk about it. They say this is like an ongoing revelation each week, and they experience it as I'm not imposing something. I find ways of teaching it, and the same experience that I'm feeling and qualities that I'm feeling, they feel them as well. When I find the different points that relate to them when they work, and they get the same experience as well. It is not a manufactured thing. It's not a made up thing. It's not something I've worked out. Okay, we're going to move the jaw like this. It just happened in literally a blinding flash of light that drove through me. I'm embarrassed to say, it sounds so cliche, but that is what happened. And then it physically just started. I'm like, wow, what is that? And I would have died. And then it just evolved and evolved, and I am continually amazed. I think, well, I must have learnt it all now, and then a whole new level opens up. And I think this and probably other things are how we're going to move into the new age, and they're just something beyond what we can imagine. It's not imaginable. That is coming, and I think this is part of that. I always wondered why they gave this to me, because I was dying. I thought, why have they given this to a dying man? But I needed the impetus to make myself better. And I think they knew that I was a fighter, and I think I did it before. I did. This may put people off, but it is holographic. You can, or I did. I visited lots of kind of ET type races, the same way as you can feel this internally as a holographic structure and a holographic womb and birth within yourself. There are lots of civilizations other than us that have a similar matrix to us, and they seem to, they say, yeah, we know that. It's like a universal for me. Now, I don't want to pick people off by going, because I don't do that all of the time, but I find it incredible. I just find it like a miracle, really.
Martin, I'm sure you've probably read this book, and I know it's nothing like what you're doing, that book, Breath by James Nestor. But he talks about a rhythm in that book around, he talks that a natural rhythm is, for most people, is around kind of 6 seconds inhalation, 6 seconds exhalation, something like that. That felt kind of, I wasn't measuring it, but would you say that's, obviously everybody is slightly different, but would you say it's that kind of a rhythm, or would you not go?
Well, the holographic breathing is different to normal breathing, and there's different breathing rhythms, and there is this shortening and lengthening. You only experience that when I teach it in a certain way, where you're lengthening on the out breath and shortening on the in breath. Now, for me, that is a very slow motion, because that motion, in a way, is being imparted on the baby from the mother's diaphragm. So you think of it, you're like 1/10 of the size of the mother. So if you compare yourself at size you are now to a huge giant 10 times the size of you, he will be breathing, or she will be breathing, much slower than you do. Because so in the womb, someone much bigger was imparting the breath. So there's this there seems to be different lengths of breath. And different lengths of breathing motion, because there's so many different ways it works. So for me, one, your breath will slow down. Two, and I get the impression, I might be wrong, because the bones move, they don't move in the same way. I opened it up, found out how all the bones of the cranium and the body move in this, and it's a shame I don't have the skull out, but I have the sphenoid and occiput as one bone, as they actually are in us. And in the baby, it's still not just the occiput and sphenoid. There's loads of joints, and actually the biggest part is between the back of the occiput and the front of the occiput. But that's all joined as one, and you've got the muscles through the front of the body tightening on the in-breath. That's bringing, I call it the balance bone, because it balances on the spine. That brings this down. The occiput and muscles at the back, pulling that down, and that balances on the spine, and it doesn't break at the sphenoid. It's because they're given it two different names. For me, that's one bone, and it bends. If that is the spine there, and it bends down both ways and bends up, so, and then that opens different movements through the whole cranium. So it's similar in a way, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're coming from the same source. And this breathing motion in the womb and the breathing motion of the mother's diaphragm on the baby is and in cranial sacral therapy they may be palpating that. In holographic breathing, I think that just opens up around the breath. So that's my thoughts on that. Once the brain gets activated, you get a much slower breath, because with normal breath, it's you breathe in and out depending on how much carbon dioxide is building up in you. In holographic breathing, it's also, as you breathe slower, you also build up toxins in the brain, because the breath is ventilating the cranial sea, ventilating the toxin, removing toxins. And when you start breathing with holographic breathing, that becomes much more animated and effective. So you don't build up the toxins, so you don't have to breathe in and out so much. So sorry for the long question, but it is a different type of breathing. This is a new way of breathing.
Yeah. We've got some questions in the chat, so I'll just read them to you there. So Gisella's asking, what do I do when my mouth begins to fill with saliva? Practical question.
That's normal. You'll get used to that and just swallow. Holographic breathing, I do dry fasting, and people generally have to stop. Just recently, over the last years, I've been doing that, and people get to 6 or 7 days with dry fasting, their mouth is like sandpaper. But when I do dry fasting, my mouth it's like this bubbling well of fluid, so I don't get that. And also dry fasting, as soon as you start or after a day, that you don't go to the toilet after that, so that at the end of it is constipation. But with holographic breathing, the digestion keeps moving, so you go to the toilet just the same. So it's brilliant for dry fasting. But this fluid that is being collected in your mouth, that is deeply, deeply healing. That is full to the top of, what's it called? Nitric oxide. So what's happening, you're eliminating out through the tongue. The tongue is a place of elimination, and the toxins coming out of the tongue. There's also viruses in this whole area. You're producing this saliva that's full of nitric oxide. It will be killing gingivitis, bacteria, viruses in the mouth. So you want that flow, and you let that build up in your mouth and let it stay there, because it will kill those viruses, it will kill that bacteria. Then you also, because you've got the motion of the mouth, it's like a bit like you're suckling. That's why it feels so nutritious. But you're also bringing in energies from the universe. So that saliva, it's like sacred water, is being energized by the spiritual energies. It's killing all of the viruses. You drink that down. So that's like the immune system for the mouth. You drink that down into the stomach, and it has all of that healing energy. Then the immune system, it kind of has a way of tagging those dead viruses and dead bacteria, and then as that comes down into the body, it's like a homeopathic remedy. The body feels all of these dead viruses and recognizes them, and then as it starts producing that gets fed to the immune system, so the immune system can start attacking those cells. And in yoga they talk about having the saliva and drinking it down as a healing thing. But this is magnified in holographic breathing. You get more saliva, you get more energy, you get this whole, it's holistic. It's amazing how holographic breathing just opens up. So that is beautiful for your immune system. If you've got a cold in your nose, you've got the nitric oxide through there. But I say, rather than blowing that out, draw that down into your mouth with holographic breathing, mix it with the saliva, just keep mixing it until the nitric oxide kills all of the bacteria. Then that will be fed into your body like as an exact homeopathic remedy for the body to recognize what illnesses you've got. You're also taking the toxins back down, so your body knows what toxins you're getting. So absolutely use that as a healing remedy. And if you ever do dry fasting, which is fasting without water or food, absolutely, you just have this, where everyone else will have a horrible sandpaper mouth and tongue, you've got this bubbling well going off in your mouth. It's just a godsend, really. So no, just enjoy that healing, and that will, you'll get used to that and regulate that after a while.
Thanks, Martin. So Whitney is asking, how long do you recommend to practice this technique during a session?
During a session?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming like how long in a one?
Oh, wait, for yourself, for you, yeah. I started and it never stopped. If you practice this every day, and it's not something you have to do as a meditation or a session, you get used to this, you can do it as you're walking, you can do it as you're washing up, or you're doing anything, you can do holographic breathing in the background. So if you practice it enough, you will notice it going on. It just activates. And some people don't think they're doing it. I had a student, she'd learnt it a while back and she'd stopped. She wasn't actively doing it much, and she'd gone to the dentist and they were trying to put this thing in where they take the x-ray, and the dentist said, look, can you stop moving your jaw? And she didn't realize she was subtly just doing it in the background without even realizing it. Just activates something, because what happens, it's not like we're implanting something on the body. The diaphragm is dropping. The whole central column, the heart, the trachea, the esophagus, is all pulling down with the diaphragm. The hyoid is pulling down. The hyoid bone's connected to the jaw, to the tongue, pulling the jaw down. The tongue is suctioned to the roof of the mouth. the roof of the mouth, starts breathing like a diaphragm. So it awakens that connection of the diaphragm through that whole pillar to the roof of the mouth, so that it's all breathing together. And once it's done, it is counterintuitive, because through the nose we want to do it the other way around, but we gets turned upside down and it all connects. And once that connection is made, it's just there in the background, so you can just fall into this at any time. As I say, it was just like I'd done it before, it just started and never stopped. So you can do sessions on yourself where you will just focus on it, do it while you're walking. You know, you can do it while you're driving, but it's good to get used to it first, because you're a bit like floating away. Most people do it as they're going to sleep at night, and it's great for insomnia, by the way, or as they're waking up in the morning, just doing it then, and you just do it for bits through the day. It doesn't have to be a sectioned off session. And I'm not going to hold a specific time for anyone. You do it as much as feels right for you, and don't force it. I'm going to do this all the time, and then you don't like it anymore. Do it at a rate that feels sustainable and enjoyable.
Wonderful, thank you. There's a couple of bits of feedback here which are very interesting. One from Dennis and one from Linda. So Dennis said, after a few minutes, I felt incredible energy in my feet as they were pushing hard into the ground. And Linda says, I feel I've generated oxytocin in my body. I was in a few seconds of light, yet it disappeared quickly. I was in my womb, feeling slight compression all through. I felt the vibration through my pelvis and genitals. It was similar to chakra cycling I had done. This feels so healing. I love it. Thank you.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for that feedback. It'll be different for everybody, and everybody has their different things that'll open up in different ways. But yeah, it's kind of instant. It is magical. You know, once you know this, like when I gave that demonstration, it's like instantly, boff, oh, and it feels so nice.
Wonderful. So Martin, if we're working with a pregnant mum, how would you start to introduce this to them? How would you, for someone who doesn't really, you know, maybe is not so attuned into their energy, into their body so much, how would you introduce it to them?
Well, it is good to do a training. I do run trainings. They're only like 4 or 5 webinars long, and you get a certificate at the end, and you practice with each other, because there's more to teaching this than meets the eye. But you can show it to people and just see how it goes. It's also worthwhile, if you're showing it to people, to align them with my website, because I've just got a shed load of free tutorials for teaching holographic breathing. I've got thousands, well, maybe not that, I think 700 or 800 YouTube videos. I make videos, I record sessions and just forget that I've done them. And they give all sorts of different things. The real meat and the interesting parts are in the paid for webinars and series. And I've just started over the last year doing practitioner trainings. There will be another one in starting October, and it'll be 5 4-hour webinars. It's not expensive. I think that's £240 for 4-hour webinars. There's a group of people to practice the practice sessions with, and then you really do learn the ins and outs of it. And I mean, you may want to do something from our birth journey, but I will be doing one around birth, where those meditations that I talked about, I will be teaching those, so people can teach the holographic breathing, but they can take it much deeper as well. So you can teach it to mothers. Really good, because there is a specific way of going about it. It's really good to let them know about my website and just the free videos. I've got a few on now. I'm just changing my website. I'll make them all much more available. I've given a lot away free of charge, but it's also worthwhile while training. You'll feel much more comfortable. And what's happening in the training, and it's marked and it's very strong, is it opens, people really start feeling the spiritual side of it. Somehow, you know, when I teach just for people to do them on themselves, it's happening at one level. But then as soon as I start teaching people to be practitioners, there is the work and ways of doing it that I'm teaching. But I wasn't expecting this whole spiritual and energetic thing starts coming through, and people start feeling that in themselves. So when they come out the other side of that, they're resourced spiritually and attuned to teaching it rather than just doing it on themselves. And there is a big difference. And I am really not expensive. If you think what a cranial training costs, what I cost I'm not expensive.
2,000, yeah. What's your website, Martin?
It's holographic-breathing.com. And it's really easy when you search for that, because the big breathing that comes up is holotropic breathing. So you might have to scroll through all of the holotropic breathing. But you'll find that, and then you'll find my YouTube channel from that. And what I will do is, if you're putting this out as a recording, I'll give you a link to the free webinar I did a couple of weeks ago, which I don't normally do it in free webinars, but I taught how we go into conception and womb life through bringing the male and female together. I'll send you a link to that so people can view that, and that teaches it, and also very powerful way of gaining access to womb life and conception.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good, thank you so much. Are there any last questions before we stop? I know, Martin, you're coming on to eHealth Learning later in the year as well. So, and on that webinar, we can perhaps look more into the whole relationship with craniosacral therapy and some of the things you've been talking about. Maybe we could look at some of your images around that as well. The beautiful things.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Beautiful. Have you come, apart from cranial work, have you come across anything else that is remotely similar to what you're talking about?
Everything. I don't get many breathworks coming along. I get acupuncturists saying, yeah, the energy systems you're teaching is the same as acupuncture. I had an Ayurvedic doctor, and I started describing the different energies. Oh, you're doing Ayurvedic medicine. Astrologists come along, and they seem to think it relates to that. It is holographic. People, it relates to everything. Any kind of healing whole practice, people find similarities and ways. And if you do it yourself, Andrew Stone's one, he brought a whole class along after they had trained to learn how I teach about the cranial C and how that works. We spent nearly a year going through that. But also he taught it to the people on the practitioner training, on the craniosacral training, and they would do the holographic breathing as they were giving the sessions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of healing practitioners say, once they've learned holographic breathing, it's almost impossible not to do it when you're giving a session. I mean, not so easy to do it if you're a counselor and talking, but if you're a hands-on healer, it just seems to be a modality for channeling energy and for bringing yourself into yourself as a ground, as an earth in yourself.
Yeah,
So holographic, it does relate to everything, really.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Martin. That was really wonderful. Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you everybody for coming along and trying it. It'd be great if we could go forth from here and have loads of holographic babies around the world.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.